Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Russ, the ThunderCast is also, of course, proud members of the College Huddle College Football Podcasting Network, which is quite important to what is coming up here really soon in the college football season. The College Huddle is a group of like-minded podcasters that all each represent our own colleges and universities. And of course, that makes it really easy when we're doing games, when we're having games against these teams. We've got built-in guests that can come on and help us with game previews, that can give us insight into those opponents. So we're really thankful and appreciative to be a part of the College Huddle, and really easy to find them on YouTube and the College Huddle, thecollegehuddle.com. You can get links to everybody's podcasts that are part of the network. It's a really cool thing. I really hope folks will check it out because it's 100% free for listeners, to find podcasts for opponents coming up. You can listen to Virginia Tech talking about playing Marshall and Southern Miss talking about playing the Herd and all that good stuff. So that brings me to...
They also have written content
that's right.
on thecollegehuddle.com. So you can find articles. If listening to however long podcast of the opponent is not your thing because you want to spend your time listening to us, you can go over there and read an article or something, that they have written. And it's all about, the kind of micro looking into things like we do. They are going to follow their team. They're going to know more about their team than any of the national heads will. But
of course, we do a pretty damn good job at our own game previews anyway. So look, we got some more news on that front as well, but let's get into this episode. It's season predictions for the Herd. As the ThunderCast sees it, Russ and I will give you our predictions on how we think that the season's going to go for the Herd, barring no major injuries and things like that. Just from a bird's eye view, what we think the season might look like. But Russ, let's get into it all with a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
All right, man. It is season predictions. We've got a very daunting schedule ahead. And just off of the heels of these season predictions will be later in the week our week 1 preview against Stony Brook. And that is a great opportunity to talk about our growing sponsorship family here at the ThunderCast. We have brought on a brand new sponsor to the show who is going to be your exclusive sponsor for every single Marshall Thundering Herd football game preview of the 2024 season. We'd like to thank and welcome ComAssist to the sponsorship family for the ThunderCast. ComAssist is a business and offers business and personal coaching, facilitation, and training on how to grow your business. You can find them at ComAssistKY.com. Russ, give me a little bit more about ComAssist.
Well, let me tell you what's going to happen when you go to that website or you pick up the phone and you get in touch with ComAssist. It's not going to be a big corporation where you don't know who you're talking to each and every time that you get someone on the phone. You're going to be talking to Larry Nitardi, who is a huge, massive Herd fan. A lot of people listening and watching this are probably already going to know the name. He has been coming up on 50 years serving under a kind of a international, local, national, how it says on here, hometown companies. He stepped out to empower others on his own way back in 2010. So he now is over 14 years in this industry, doing this on his own with ComAssist. And again, what do we say all the time? Herd fans love to do business with other Herd fans. How are you going to like calling Larry and having him coach your business staff, your sales force, or you in your business, whether you're a startup, whether you are looking for sustainable growth year after year, no matter what. But then come Saturday, you see him out there in the West lot or in the stands or whatever, because again, he's a big Herd fan.
Yeah, that's right. And if your business is located in the northern Kentucky, Cincinnati metro area, or in the regional Huntington tri-state area, that's the honey hole where ComAssist is doing the lion's share of their business. So if this sounds like you, if you are stagnant and you're like, man, I got to do something, like we can't seem to find any growth. We're stale right now. We need an injection of energy. We need something. ComAssistKY.com. Contact Larry Nitardi and see how he and this company can help you get to the next level. Russ, let's talk about season predictions for the 2024 Marshall Thundering Herd. I mentioned it at the beginning. It's a daunting schedule for Marshall, right? It's 2 big marquee out-of-conference games, Power 5 games, Power 4 games, at Virginia Tech, at Ohio State. You've got a historic MAC foe that the Herd's got some history with in Western Michigan. You got your home opener against Stony Brook. And then when you get into the Sun Belt schedule, we're making the Virginia road trip late in the year. We've got App State, we've got Coastal, and we've got Georgia State all at home. The crossover games this year, ULM at home for the first time ever, and then Southern Miss on the road. So let's talk about it. What do you think we should do? Do you want to go game by game? Do you want to break it down into like thirds of the season? How do you want to do this? Because I'm kind of game for anything.
Well, so I've got the schedule that I've written down here for my notes in front of it. And if it's all right, I'd like to just go over it without the dates, but just, going over the order of it first, on what's home, what's away, in what order.
Okay.
And then I also have here what the ESPN predictor right now has us as a percentage of winning each game. I can do that as I go down them, or if you want, we can save it to the end. I don't really care.
Yeah, let's just keep it like instead of going back and forth, let's just do that all at the same time.
All right, so we're going to start off with Stony Brook. And this one, more than anything, is really, really intriguing to me how this whole ESPN predictor thing might work. They were 0-10 last year in FCS. They still have us at only an 89% chance of beating them at home in the home opener. But
all right, okay.
Again, home opener coming up very, very soon. I can already taste the barbecue right now because I'm in tailgate mode. After that, we go on the road to Virginia Tech. ESPN gives us a 25.4% chance. I would like to remind everybody that these will change throughout the season, week to week. This is what they do before the season, and we'll get into all that later. After that, there's actually a bye week after that, but then we go to Ohio State, 3.6% chance. Back home, Western Michigan, 67.4% chance for the Herd in that game. The conference season then starts with a home game, App State. That's homecoming for us, 42.8% chance. Then we go on the road to Georgia Southern. We've got a 45.5% chance. Back home to Georgia State, 54.7% chance. ULM at home, 80.6% chance. At Southern Miss, 47.8% chance. Welcome Coastal Carolina in for the 75 game, 55.7% chance. Then on the road at ODU, 55.3% chance. And then to end the season on the road at James Madison, 28.6% chance. Add all those up, ESPN is looking at us going 6-6, but a lot of those being nearly too close to call, right around the 50% chance for either team. And again, that changes throughout the season.
Okay, so a couple of things. I was writing that down as you were going down it.
Mm-hmm.
Home dog against App State, which is going to go tremendously long in final standings of the Sun Belt Conference, obviously.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
App State by most accounts are the favorites in the East. Marshall is not, by any accounts that I have found, the favorite in the East. And of course, you're an underdog on the road at James Madison, another highly contested East Division game, which I might add 2 years ago, we went to Harrisonburg and got a win, something that very few teams have been able to do historically in recent history anyway. And I will also add that we battled James Madison mightily last year at home with the absence of Rasheen Ali in that game. So, I'm not putting anything past James Madison. They're a really good team. They've been a really good team for a long time. They too are bringing in a new coach, new everything. They lost a buttload of players to the transfer portal.
QB1.
So you can't just say, QB1 left and reigning Sunbelt Player of the Year or something like that went to Texas State.
Yeah.
So, man, I'll tell you, you can't just pencil them in as being awesome again. But it's also not surprising that you're an underdog on the road when ESPN obviously doesn't think very highly of you to begin with because you're 6-6. So let's go down here. A couple of things that I see. Marshall gets cursed with the early bye week again. Week 3, 9-14. They're going to be a bye week between Virginia Tech and Ohio State. That obviously is a positive. Gives you a couple of weeks gives you a week to heal up after Virginia Tech, get some things right, and see if you need to make any wholesale changes or any tweaks. But still, the early bye week has been a Huff era constant. They do get another one later in the season after the Thursday midweek. So you'll be off on 10/26. So that's the nice middle of the season bye week that we have been missing for a while.
Yeah. You actually get an extended bye week because of the early game right before that.
Yeah. So that'll be nice. But you get it after Georgia State, but you get it heading into, the ULM game. So nothing against ULM. I don't feel like you need to gear up for them. You know what I mean? It's like
no, but what it does give you is
get healthy.
Yeah, you get healthy, and it's right before. As soon as that ULM game is over, you got 3 of your final 4 are on the road.
Right. Yeah, and your final game of the year is mid-November, which is 75 week. That'll be the final game of the season for the Herd at home, which is not something I can recall happening in a very long time. Very long time.
And that's why Senior Day is the previous game before that, like we talked about before.
Which would be against ULM. So let's talk about the out of conference. All right. What do you got? You open with Stony Brook. You go to Virginia Tech. You got a bye week. You go to Columbus and play Ohio State. You're back home against Western Michigan's Hall of Fame weekend. They're inducting, it's also the 2014 Conference USA Championship team reunion that weekend. Big weekend. So out of conference, what are you thinking for the Herd?
It's kind of hard to go against a 2-2 record there. I mean, that's 2 really hard games to play on the road is 2024 Virginia Tech and especially 2024 Ohio State. Can we win at Virginia Tech? Absolutely. Can we win at Ohio State? A lot less likely, and that's just because of resources. I mean, they have top to bottom, better players as their bench is going to be deeper. I heard that they spent 40-some million on transfer players alone in the offseason. So it's going to be such a daunting task. It's just the landscape of college football when you're playing the elites and you're not an elite. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm feeling 2-2. I would love to say, no, I think we got what it takes to go in there and get a win at Virginia Tech. I feel really good about that. I don't feel really good about that because if we had played Virginia Tech last year later in the season, I'm not sure we would have won that game because they were really good by the middle end of the season last year. And I've seen several publications across social media and nationally that are that think Virginia Tech is the favorite to win the ACC this year. That's how much of a turnaround they're seeing from the game against us last year to this year. So they're going to be a much improved team. And Blacksburg is a very intimidating environment. But Marshall in the past has gone in there and played tough in the past. Haven't been able to come out of there with a win yet, but we've played tough at Virginia Tech. That environment hasn't seemed to intimidate us. And not so long ago, we went into a little town called South Bend, Indiana, and played against mighty Notre Dame and didn't get intimidated by that environment either and won that game. So you fully can't discount Marshall against Virginia Tech this year. Beat them last year, been in big game situations recently, been in big games and won those games recently. So my gut tells me best case scenario 3-1, most likely 2-2. It's going to take a myriad of things to happen at Ohio State. I mean, you're talking about some Keystone Cops football from Ohio State, 8 turnover type thing for them to probably get a win against the Buckeyes. But never say never. I'm not saying never, but I'm saying it really feels like 2-2.
We've gone up there twice, and the first time was that 24-21 game that we have talked about on the show quite a bit. I was up there. I was up for both games. The next game was 2010 when we did not have a shot whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But again, we're talking about 2004, 2010. The landscape of college football has just changed dramatically in those 14 years, and especially in those 20 years. And we're just 100% looking at going up against basically an all-American squad in Ohio State.
Yeah, pretty much. This is a playoff team.
Yeah.
Right? Perennially. It's a playoff team. And Marshall's still striving to get to that G5 bid to the playoffs, right?
Sure.
We're not even there yet. We're trying to get there. So we're trying to get to the Sun Belt Conference Championship level. And you're talking about going into one of the most advantageous home fields in recent college football and trying to beat a playoff team. So if you're a playoff team, then go in and go toe-to-toe with the Buckeyes, and you win that game, then, man, you really got an argument then, don't you? You really got a we belong in this conversation, data point to be talking about. So I think you and I are both in agreement. 2-2 looks like the most likely scenario for the out of conference.
Most likely, but you still can't ever discount Western Michigan. I mean, things can happen. I mean, we're not talking about overlooking anybody. We're just saying that most likely it's going to be 2-2, more than 1-3, or more than 3-1.
All right, so let's go to the next third of the season, which is going to bring us into the Sun Belt Conference slate. You're talking about opening the Sun Belt slate with Appalachian State for homecoming on October the 5th, followed by a quick trip the following weekend to Statesboro and playing Georgia Southern, a much improved Georgia Southern team, I must say, and then back home on a quick 5-day turnaround to play Georgia State on a Thursday night midweek. Then you get your next bye, and your fourth game of the middle 4 is Senior Day against University of Louisiana Monroe. Tackle that 4 however you want to tackle it.
Well, so 3 of the 4 games to open the conference are at home. And then you've got a bye week that is in there as well to help you, before you have to go for the final third of the season. You got a little bye to get a little healthier. But I love having App State at home. I love that it's on homecoming. What should be a very raucous crowd, I'm hoping for. Mm-hmm. Georgia Southern is much improved, and it's always tough to win on the road. But I think having 3 home games, no matter how I look at that, I see 3 wins and 1 loss as the most likely scenario the way I see it, and those 4 stretch. Like we always have that thing, not just Marshall, but any squad, that you lose a game that you shouldn't, Yeah. But you always have that, well, we won a game when we were the underdog. Mm-hmm. So any way that I look at that, no matter if you say, I've got App State as a win or a loss, or Georgia Southern as a win or a loss, or any of those, I see 3-1 out of that 4-game stretch.
I do too. I do too. And I tell you what, it's not surprising to me that Marshall's been named a home underdog early by ESPN. It might change by the time that game rolls around. But for right now, that's all we can talk about. That Marshall is being named a home underdog by ESPN. That don't sit right with me. I just don't like being thought of as a home underdog. Marshall and Joan C. Edwards Stadium while wins for opponents have become easier, it's still a really tough place to go in and get a win, right?
Mm-hmm.
We still bring a very, very tough environment week in and week out in Huntington, West Virginia. Our fans still show up. Our fans are still loud. This one particularly is going to be homecoming, so there's going to be even more fans. And I would like to say, we didn't talk about this in the episode, this past week's episode, but did you notice that they changed where visitor seating is going to be at the Joan this year?
No.
Yes. So I saw a map. Somebody had posted it, and the map visitor seating had, at least on that one, if it's true, looks like it had been pushed all the way to the top of the section there in the visitor seating, like not down low, but up at the top. So that subtle change, if true, if that actually happened, really takes away that App fan base out of the game a little bit, because they're now farther away from their bench. Their guys aren't going to be able to feed off of any of that energy that they would maybe have from fans sitting down low and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that really happened, but I saw that on social media, and I saw it from one thing. But anyway, I don't know. But I see Marshall going 3-1 in that middle four stretch. Okay. How about that final 4 games of the regular season? It starts out with a trip to Hattiesburg against Southern Mississippi, I love having back on the schedule, by the way. I love playing Southern Miss. Then you get Coastal Carolina at home for 75 week, also the home finale. And then the Virginia road trip, road swing, whatever you want to call it. Final 2 games of the year at Old Dominion, at James Madison to close it out. Russ, how do you see it?
I have that 4-game stretch as 3-1 as well. And I am real confident on Coastal Carolina at home on the 75 week. Yeah. We've talked about that before. It's another level.
It is.
It's going to be tough back-to-back ODU and JMU. ODU, I look to be much improved, especially on the offensive side with the coach that they brought in for offensive coordinator. Again, not saying that I have anybody penciled in as a win or a loss or whatever. Just out of those 4, I see it 3-1. You win a game you shouldn't, you lose a game you should, whatever. 3-1 out of the last 4. So that gives me a 6-2 conference record. 8-4 overall is kind of what I'm looking at right now. And that's before this very first kickoff.
Right. This is all gut reaction, just looking at the schedule and thinking what I think I know, you know. I'm 3-1 also at the Final 4. I don't have that game we should have lost on here, the team we should have beat that we lost to. I don't have that this year. I do have the team that I think we, shouldn't beat that we're going to beat, obviously. So I too fall at 8-4, 6-2 in conference. I think that's going to be good enough for second place in the East. I don't think that's going to win the East. I think that, App State might be a 1-loss team. James Madison might be a 1-2 loss team. It'll come down to tiebreakers, maybe. Georgia Southern. We might have a real problem up there at the second place standing. It's going to come into tiebreakers just basically for bowl bids type of thing. But I think 8-4 is good too. And if you remember when I asked Phil Steele, that's where he kind of thought we were going to land as well, at that 8-4, record. So I don't know. What do you think the ceiling is for this team?
It feels like 9-3 is the ceiling. I can't really go as high as 10-2. I'd love to go 10-2, but at that point, I think that you'd have to run the conference table, and it's just so hard to go undefeated in conference, especially the Sun Belt and the Sun Belt East. But it is really tough to anytime win 8 games in a row, and that would, the way I had it on here, if we were beating Western Michigan, because the 2 losses definitely would include or not be lost to Western Michigan in the out of conference. I'm looking at that would be 9 games in a row to go 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems very, very, very improbable. Not impossible. Love to see it. I see 9-3 being more like that ceiling, as you always have to have a loss in there somewhere that it just was not your day.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it not the ceiling, right? The ceiling to me is 10-2. It's running the table against everybody else, but losing to Ohio State and Virginia Tech, because that's absolutely the ceiling. I mean, if you want to get super technical, right? Like, nobody thinks you're going to beat Ohio State. Maybe somebody might. But so really the ceiling is an 11-win season if you think you're going to beat Virginia Tech and then run the table. But I think the absolute ceiling for this team is a 10-2 season in the regular season. Of course, that would mean you're probably going to a Sun Belt Conference championship. You're obviously going to a bowl game. And I think if Marshall goes to a Sun Belt Conference championship, they win the damn thing. So, if you're rolling, you're rolling, right? So really at the end of the day, you're probably going to do really well in a bowl game. You might be looking at a 12-2 overall season, which would be honestly magical to me.
Oh, yeah.
That would be magical. But I'm with you with 9 wins is a realistic ceiling, but an absolute ceiling to me would be 10.
Yeah, I'm going with Russ Livingood's more. It's just highly likelier that you're going to lose one game in a stretch of 9.
Unbelievably true. Yes.
Yeah. So absolutely. I'm going more. Now, one thing that I really like, and this is only by going through the ESPN predictor, which it's nothing. I mean, they ran it through a simulation 1,000 times, and that's how they get this percentage. But a lot of times in conference games for the mid-majors, unless there is somebody that is just totally, like ULM, I think brought in 76 or 73 or something new players in the transfer portal. Yeah, I mean, it's just, total overhaul, But unless it's a situation like that, they have someone in that 42-58 one way or another. And a lot of these are 55-45 or less. 6 of the games have us somewhere between 42% and 55% or 58%, whatever, of winning. Those are like, if you put that into betting odds or whatever, you're looking at a field goal either way,
right?
On the spread. So I really think that as the season goes on, you'll see some drastic changes in those, who's playing hot, who's got some injuries, that sort of thing. But 6 of your games have it almost a coin flip at this point. I think that it's really likely that you could come out with 6 victories right there.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you're like, all right, who plays better in a close game?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're in enough of those close games and you're getting late in the season, well, then you're probably going to play better in a close game because you've been there so many times already. Let me see here. What do you think the absolute basement for this team this year?
I went back and forth between 5-7 and 6-6, but I settled on 6-6. And I think the schedule, as hard as it is because of the out of conference, I think that we did pretty well with the cross division draw. And I think we did pretty well with 5 out of 7 games in the middle of the season being home games. And you throw a bye week in there. I think that 6-6 is more likely for me for my realistic floor. I know a lot of people, I'll get into this in a little bit, but a lot of people nationally are saying 6-6 is like the realistic where they end up, But I'll get into that. I got a little something for you here in a little bit, but I see a ceiling of 9-3, a floor of 6-6, and when we went down through it, I'm just kind of looking 8-4 and 6-2 in the conference.
Yeah, we both agree at 8-4 is where we think we will absolutely or actually land. My basement for this team is 5-7. A couple of those games that are coin flips, if they flip the other way,
that's right. Yeah.
You're a 5-7 team. So I have a really, really big 10-2 is my absolute ceiling. 5-7 is my absolute basement. I mean, that's a big range. And what happens if you go right in the middle of that? It's 8-4 pretty much. And, I don't know. I will tell you this. I think the Herd goes undefeated at home. If that helps give you an indication of where my wins and losses might factor, I think Marshall's going to hold serve at home at Joan C. Edwards Stadium for the first time in a really long time and go 6-0 in Huntington, West Virginia. And by golly, I think Charles Huff needs that. I think these fans need that. These freaking players need that. Like, dude, everybody that wears Kelly green and white just needs to walk in and out of Joan C. Edwards Stadium on a Saturday or a Thursday winning. That's what we need.
Can I talk just a second about the national prediction of 6-6? I mean, not everybody has got that, but I mean, the over/under on wins is 6.5 on just about everybody's national pick 'em. You just go through there, Google something, click on the link, and they're going to have anywhere, around that 6-6. So let me talk about that for a second. I actually wrote this down. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading here so I can, because I had this thought and I was like, this was as I was looking at other predictions. National predictions have the Herd in the 5-7 to 7-5 range, but lots of them are still mentioning Mitch Griffiths as in play for quarterback one this month.
It's August. It's freaking game week, man.
One of these 11 days ago. One that talked like an expert. This is all the same one here. And ranked high on the Google results, had him as our top transfer and our 8th best player on the team. That same article had J.J. Roberts as our best player. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But do you know who they had as our 9th best player?
No.
J.J. Roberts. What's my point? Don't put much stock in these national, quote, experts that cannot possibly cover 130 teams. They exist for the clicks and the ad revenue.
Of course.
So if you're watching or listening to this and you have been all doom and gloom and thinking, well, there's just no chance, we're going to be 6-6. Everyone's saying it. Read the articles, read why they think that. If they don't say it, think that they might not know a single daggone thing about our team that is relevant in August of 2024.
So there is a reason that we lean heavily on a guy like Phil Steele.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to the interview, he'll tell you, we dedicate as much time and magazine space to Marshall as we do Alabama, Georgia, and everybody else. Right? They talk to the coaches.
They talk to the coaches.
He gets insight, firsthand insight. That's why we lean on his work. And I don't lean on XYZ.com because XYZ.com's editor goes to Chat GPT and says, hey, write me up an article about Marshall Thundering Herd. Give me their top 10 transfers. Give me their top 10 best players. Don't worry about if the same guy's listed twice. They're probably not reading the article anyway. They're looking at the ranking and moving on.
What a top 10 list by that guy, man. I'm telling you.
He's so good. He landed twice in the top 11.
Well, I just wanted to know why he was good enough to be number 1, but he was also number 9. If that doesn't tell you that somebody's throwing darts, I mean, he's just like, oh, let's see who we land on. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous that, and I'm not going to mention the site's name because I don't want to give them a click.
Right.
But it's a nationally known daggone name, and the guy that wrote the article is the publisher for this site.
Well,
basically what we're telling you here, guys, if you want real-time info, not insider info. We're not running and talking to coaches and then coming over here and saying, oh, look what we know, or, oh, we can't say anything because, we talked to the coach, but obviously we ain't allowed to say. We don't. Okay. We are 2 fans, but what we do is our homework. And even though I stopped doing all the editing real late on, there's a couple of different transfers that have come in and things like that. That transfer portal, I mean, nobody has the thumb on the pulse of what's going on with this team, of who we brought in, who didn't stay with the team, that sort of thing, than us. We have done the position group breakdown. We have done the transfer portal breakdown. We know who is and who is not on this roster.
That's right.
But nationally, they do not.
No.
So do not put any stock in, 6-6 if they're lucky.
Right.
What are they basing it on? They're basing it on things that aren't even true.
Trying to just piss you off,
Yeah.
and go, God, did you see this article, and share it? And now
Yeah.
your buddy's going to click on it and look at it. But look, I'm not even going to tell you to listen to what I say, right? You can if you want, because of the reasons that Russ said. We do our homework, we study, and we try to present as factual and accurate information as we can present to you.
That's
Sometimes we're wrong, but we are trying to get it right 100% of the time.
That's why there are predictions.
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you to listen to what I say, but it's one of the more informed opinions that you're going to get on Marshall athletics, right?
Yeah.
And if you really want to put stock in someone, it's Luke Creasy, because he's the local beat writer, man.
Yeah, it's
That's
his job
who you want to put your stock into.
Yeah.
Don't care about XYZ.com. Don't care what Athlon ranks Marshall, right? Follow what Luke is saying and listen, if you want to what we're saying, because at least it's an informed opinion, right? You're going to get factual information. So let's wrap this one up. Let's wrap this season prediction episode up. Obviously, we're both feeling a bowl game. Marshall needs to get on the right side of a bowl game. We need to break that trend too. There's several trends that need to break here. So I'm feeling like a 9-4 season, getting that bowl win, putting one in the dub column again for the bowl wins. 9-4 is respectable. Obviously, 10-3 looks so much better, but 9-4 is a really good season, I think. Finishing second in the SBC East, somehow if we make a trip to the Sun Belt, if 6-2 puts us in a tiebreaker with a couple of teams and we win the right games and we win those tiebreakers, 6-2 can get you into the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Don't think it won't. It can.
I think it would have the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
I guess it depends on who you're winning against and losing against. But
no, I'm saying it would have put you at 6-2. I think was the record of the last 2 years.
So even that will get you. It could get you there. And of course, famously, it's been a talking point in a number of our episodes, and we haven't really dissected it, but it's ever present until it's not. Does an 8-4 season get Huff an extension?
I don't know. I want him to stay. Obviously, we've talked about that several times. I love what he's done for the program. I was just thinking about this. You never hear about, he lost the locker room. Well, there was a big fight. Well, there's been 5 people arrested since spring practice. You just don't seem to hear about that. What we do hear about is graduation rate. We hear about, community service. We hear about, elevating it for classroom, that sort of thing. I think that we brought in great men of character. I think that we've navigated, some very, very unfortunate injuries that have drastically changed our seasons. Does everyone deal with that? Absolutely. Everyone deals with the transfer portal. I'm just really glad that we had who we did have, because we have had somebody that's embraced the transfer portal and brought them in and really given us a chance, instead of just being like Louisiana Monroe saying, we got 73 new players. 8-4, I don't know if it gets it done, but when you look at this schedule, would 10-2 get it done? I would like to think so, especially if your 2 losses are on the road to 2 powerhouses that we're thinking about this year. But I just don't know, because I'm not the decision maker.
Right, but you got a gut feeling,
I would think you do 2 more years. If the coach agrees on it and the staff agrees on it, you do 2 more years if you're 8-4 and you're right there in the mix for the conference championship. But earlier, if I'm not mistaken, I said I felt like it was going to take a conference championship to do it.
I've got a couple of caveats, right? I can go both ways with this, and I can, even though I set you up to tie it to a record, as you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's not just the record, because let's say you go 8-4, you beat Virginia Tech on the road, you play Ohio State, to a respectable 17-point loss, right? That's respectable given the gap in haves and have-nots amongst those teams. And then you somehow just lose 3 games, in the conference slate or something like that. So it's a hodgepodge of ups and downs in the season. And you're not in the mix for a Sun Belt Conference championship game this season, but the air raid works really, really well. So you're a 7-win ball club, or you're a 6-6 ball club, but you beat Virginia Tech and you put up 4,500 yards passing and lit the scoreboard up all season long. And then, are there enough indicators to go, you know what, let's do it for another year. Let's do it for 2, right? I think so. I will say this. I think if Marshall goes 8-4 and beats one of those Power 5 conference teams, I think you're going to see an extension anyway. I think if Marshall goes above 9-4 and lands in a conference championship game, they get an appearance, I think you see an extension offered at least. I like Huff, and for all the things that you said, there are people that are just not going to be okay for whatever reason because they think, well, we can just get rid of him and bring in the next Bobby Pruitt.
You're going to go 10-2 and 11-1 every year.
Why wouldn't you go get Robbie Pruitt and bring him in here and win a bunch of games? But that's just not the reality of the game that we're playing now. I like Huff for the reasons you said. He's you never hear about the negative stuff and people in the news for the wrong reasons anymore. We're also sending dudes to the pros. It's the Pro Bowl, it's the Senior Bowl thing, it's the Shrine Bowl thing, it's the showcase things. And at the end of the day, I get it, man. Fans are just like, I don't give a shit about any of that. I want to win. I get it. There's always a section of the fan base that's they don't care about anything else as long as you win games. I get it. They don't care that guys get arrested or blah, 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 whatever. As long as you're 10-2 or 11-1 and winning, I get it. That's all they care about. That's not all I care about. I want to win football games as much as the next guy. But there is a point where I'm not willing to trade an extra win or 2 in a season for like perennial rain cloud over top of my program.
Yeah, like you're in line for the Fulmer Cup every year. Phil Fulmer from Tennessee, where everybody's getting arrested and all that jazz.
So I'll go on record and I'll say it. I don't care, man. What do I care? what people think? I hope Huff gets an extension, especially if this air raid works, especially if they're competitive and make a run at a Sun Belt Conference championship. Might fall just short. What if we are second in the East and we lose a tiebreaker to App State? Is that really worth lighting it all on fire and starting from scratch? I don't think it is. Yeah. The man led a team into South Bend and beat Notre Dame, widely considered the second biggest victory of all time. And then some people will put it ahead of Xavier after the plane crash. I'll never do that. But had that game not happened, it would be the number 1 biggest victory of all time, right? So he did that, right? And he's brought players in that have become all-time greats even in one season. Kalen Laburn, all-time great. One season for the Herd, magical. It's magical. And a great kid to boot. Awesome kid. So I think there's enough good things that you really heavily consider. 8-4 is good enough, depending on where you fall, right? So I'm pulling for him. I hope he gets an extension. I hope it's a couple of more years. I hope he gets another, opportunity to evolve a air raid. Because honestly, in an air raid, you're the right quarterback away from being pretty daunting. Pretty damn lethal. So I don't know. You got any final words on this season prediction thing before we get out of here?
Yeah, I do, and it's not about the prediction; it's about the journey. And we've had the pleasure of talking to some people that have gone to all 12 regular season games the last couple of years. You know, they did it one year and somebody else did it another and that sort of thing. I have always thought that was cool. I'm probably not doing that this year, but the last 2 years I went to 9 games. One of them was including a bowl game. So I went to 8 regular season games, then a bowl game. That was 9. Last year I went to 9 regular season games, didn't go to the bowl game. This year I have tickets and plans to go to 10 games, 4 away games, and that's Virginia Tech, Ohio State, Old Dominion, and James Madison. I have my sights on wanting to go to Southern Miss. You know, that's going to be really, really hard to do. You know, you got fall sports with the kids. You got, you know, just helping out around the house. You know, I got 3 kids, 2 dogs. There's a lot of stuff to do. I'm really, really hoping that I can go to all the 10 that I have the tickets for, but I'm really looking forward to trying to see about going to Southern Miss as well. And that would be 11 games. It would break my record either way of games that I've gone to in the season. And I just think it would be really cool. It's shaping up to be a special, for me, season as far as games that I get to go to.
Yeah, that would be really cool, man. I've never been able to go to more than, I think I went to 8 in it, you know, and of course 6 at home. So
that was the MAC, is that right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was MAC era for sure.
So back then it was only 11 games, maybe?
I don't know.
So 8 out of 11 is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, of course, one of those is a bowl game, obviously. Same.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So
but yeah, 8's always has been my limit, and that was as a student. So
well, you know, that might have been 7 home games because of the MAC championship game.
Might have been. Could have been.
Yeah.
We went to Ohio. I remember going to Athens one year, and then we went to well, no, it wasn't that was a different year. I went to one of the away games, I think, in 99 because I went to the bowl game in 99. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that would have been it. I've never come close. I haven't come close to even, especially in the last 7 years being in Florida, even sniffing 5 games or 3 games even. So I'm excited about the opportunity to see more herd games more often, and maybe not just football. You know, be able to catch some away games. We play Kyle, I don't know, Bellarmine.
Bellarmine, yeah. I've been corrected twice.
I just noticed I was driving down the road. It's like right by my house. But anyway, we play on the road here in Louisville quite a bit, and you know, surrounding Lexington's not that far away, so I might be able to catch the herd on the road a little bit and not have to drive all the way to Huntington. So it'd be pretty cool. Cool. So if you got nothing else, take us the hell out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, or whether you see us at all these away games that I'm talking about, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go herd.
Go herd is the ThunderCast. Join us in a couple of days for a week 1 preview. The freaking football season is here. We'll see you later.